Hello, everybody. Hopefully my mic's picking up okay. I just wanted to talk quickly about two different ideas. I'll probably split this into two videos, but I've thought more about this one, so I'll talk about it. So I was playing D&D the other day with some friends, and we were talking about most races in D&D live a certain length of time, and then there are some races that live really long and some races that live, not as long. And of course, in the real world, there are things like there are animals that don't live as long as people, and then there are animals that live longer than people. And so, of course, most of the world is now kind of populated with people. And that means that a lot of the cycles of change that happen in the world, that at least that affect us, kind of are to do with people. So the things we remember and the things we forget are to do with the people that have come and gone. And so every kind of generation, there are things that are forgotten and there are things that are rediscovered. And then there are things, of course, that are remembered, but every generation has to relearn those previous things in order to be able to utilize the things that have come before. So, of course, if you and only you were a person who lived for a different amount of time than everybody else, let's say you only lived for some reason for 25 years, but everybody else lived for 100 years. So then you would think that things change really slowly. In your lifetime, you wouldn't really see any change because 25 years is not a lot of time. And in order to see real change, you have to have people who are growing up and who want change. You have people who don't want change and are resisting it because they're old, they're used to the things that are happening. And then when the older people retire and die out, then the younger people come up and they create the change. And so the change that they want. And so then if you only live 20, 25 years, then you come in, you only see, you have 3 or 4 generations, 4 or 5 generations per one generation of everyone else. And so to you, things would never change. The world would pretty much stay relatively the same between your birth and your death. And on the other hand, of course, if you lived many hundred years, then you would see things changing very quickly. Every time there's a new generation of these 100-year humans, something changes dramatically, and all these people, are born and die, and they get new ideas, and those new ideas come into effect with the new generation, and you would see these generations happening, and things would appear to be changing quite quickly. And like if, let's say a tree grows, this might feel like a side tangent, but like it still makes sense. Let's say a forest is cut down in my childhood. It might grow back by the time I'm an old man. But for someone who lives a short period of time, that forest would not grow back, although like very much. And for someone who lives a long, long time, they would see that forest as like, oh, it's cut down, and that's fine because I know that forests grow back. Like in my lifetime, I've seen forests grow back. So this is just another forest, and it will grow back, and so that's fine. And so that I thought was a very interesting idea, that perspective on the world, just based on how long you live, and specifically how long you live relative to something else. So whether that's another animal, or whether that's a plant like a tree, or flora, fauna, whatever. And so, of course, if you could live as long as like a mountain, then things would appear to happen very quickly, because you're like, oh, in the last 100 years, all these things happened. But of course, to someone who only lives 100 years, that's very slow, because that's all the time you have to observe the things that happen. So I thought that was really cool. And then I got thinking, and of course, as you do, and I was like, well, I think there is a small version of that, well, a big version of that, in our world that does exist in society. I thought it was cool. So it's like a corporation exists beyond the lifetime of a single person. A good example is the Hudson's Bay Company in Canada. That company has been around for, as far as I understand, several hundred years. Then there are things like religion, and despite religion changing, the core foundation of, let's say, Christianity or Buddhism has been around for thousands of years. And in the case of Christianity, it's helped shaped a lot of the Western world, and so as it's known, the Western world. And so we have these things, these ideas, these ideals that are passed down from generation to generation, and those things shape us as a society and as an individual, and those things outlive us. And so that is sort of an example of a thing that exists that has a perspective on the world that's grander than you as a person that lives for 100 years, because this thing outlives. And so it will see economic change, it will see religious change, it will see new cultures coming in and taking effect on it, or it resisting the effect of other cultures. And it will see all this change in the world, and it will most likely document it in some way, whether it's financial records or historically or however, and it could be some sort of institution, it could be even the academics. The idea of an academic atmosphere is sort of something that was thought up and adopted and is now as propagated and has seen the world change and has changed with the world and is now a big part of the world. And so the academics has seen the world through many hundred years. And religion is probably the easiest one to just kind of call out, but also governments, anything with a record like the FBI, or anything with a anything with a database. And so I just thought it was a fun thought experiment to think about these things that their perspective on the world of something that lives a very short life and a very long life, and the things in the world that do maybe have these lifespans, like a religion outliving a human far beyond their life, and how one person, like a pastor, takes a religion and molds it to their idea of that religion, and then that can propagate out into the future, into the next generations. Yeah. Okay. Thanks to anybody who watched this. All right.